11:04. There's my alarm. 11:04 a.m. Eastern time. If you go into the description, you can find the link to Claire's Twitter. But as I believe everyone's talking about right now is so it is. He has confirmed. It is confirmed that the president of Iran has passed. Correct. I'm just gonna hand it over to you immediately. Everyone knows who you are. You don't need to introduce
Yes,
yourself.
it is confirmed. What apparently happened is that after some meetings in upper sort of northwestern Iran yesterday, near the border with Azerbaijan, a helicopter carrying Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, also the foreign minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian, and a couple of others, plus two-man crew. That helicopter went into some really bad weather, mountainous, rugged area in that part of the country, and apparently plowed into a mountain. And because of the weather and the remoteness of the region, the rugged terrain of the region, it took the rescue parties a long time to get to them. But once they reached the wreckage of the plane, of the helicopter, it was pretty obvious that no one had survived. So yes, the president of Iran is no more, and also the foreign minister and a couple of other more local officials also died in that crash.
And I don't know if you saw. I don't know how accurate it is, but that like all of the weather data in Iran was like scrapped. Like no one can find it.
Oh no, it was very visible. I mean, there's no mistake. It was very, very obvious what the
Got
weather was. And it wasn't all of Iran, but it was up in this particular area, um, again, near the border with Azerbaijan. It was raining heavily. It was cold. It was very, very foggy. And I think it's likely, at least, that those conditions contributed to the crash.
think there was any foul play involved?
No way to know for sure, but at the moment right now, it really looks like weather's to blame.
Yeah.
Well, I might add one other thing, and that is that this helicopter that they were flying in was an old Russian helicopter. So it seems a little odd that, they would put the president of the country and the foreign minister and others in such an old uh, aircraft, and then also the maintenance record, shall we say, of Iranians is not always the best. So, not suggesting foul play there, just um, you know, poor maintenance perhaps of that aircraft. I don't know, but definitely bad weather.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure. But I feel like with anytime you have something as like high profile as this, you have to look at it from I guess every imaginable angle, right?
Sure, and there's a lot of speculation out there, of course, as we'll expect, I'm sure. Um, and, everyone is kind of expecting fingers to be pointing at, various parties like Israel. Um, that has not happened yet, by the way, that I've seen. But, in this case, the overwhelming evidence of the horrible weather, the mountainous, rugged terrain, really seems to not completely rule out and add in those maintenance issues, the age of that aircraft, add that all in, but those things seem to have contributed more than anything else to the crash.
In I guess modern times and sort of lines of succession as well as, speed of light communication, internet, satellite, phone. Does this have the same I mean obviously it does, but does this have the same effect that is are these things nearly as pressing as they would be maybe 100 years ago, just for the basis of when one in the United States, so they have the line of succession a mile long. Obviously, let's say Air Force One went down, that would be a huge news, but at the same time, these things are built in. I mean, specifically to
Hmm.
survive nuclear war, you do have the A team, the B team, the Z team.
Yeah.
does it have the same effect other than, I mean, obviously it's a worldly, it's not the same as, if I go down, it is the president of
Well,
Iran.
that would be very bad.
Well, of course, and it would be, and it'd be more important than anything. But something like this, does it have the same? I don't know. Is it the same as like a king dying 300 years ago, or do the machines of government just kind of keep trudging forward?
Well, I mean, it's a serious blow to the leadership team in Iran, yes. But there is, yes, of course, a line of succession, and for the time being, the vice, the first, I should say, first deputy president, whose name is Mohammed Mokhber, will be taking the place of Raisi as president. And according to the Iranian constitution, they have 50 days to hold new elections for a president. Now, Raisi himself was elected, or more appropriately put, selected
Mm-hmm.
in 2021 and would have served 4 years. They have a 4-year presidential term, just like we do. Would have served until next year, 2025, when regular elections would have been scheduled again. But in this case, according to the Constitution, the loss of the president means that they have 50 days. That would put it somewhere in the beginning of July. By that time, they have to schedule new elections. And in the meantime, the first deputy president, again, his name is Mohammed Mokhber. He's known as a regime hardliner, of course, and a loyalist to the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And let's look at him for a moment. He has that title for a reason, supreme leader, and that is because he controls the entire government and country of Iran. Yes, there are these different offices and organizations, agencies within the government that have responsibilities, but every one of them, the organizations and the individuals themselves, everyone is under the authority of the supreme leader, who can decide decide for or against anything he wants to and anyone he wants to at any time. So yes, there's a constitution, but supreme leader is still the supreme leader. But what the loss of Raisi does, number one, it opens up the presidency, the office of the presidency, for these new selections. We might recall again that back in 2021, when Raisi got in as president, he got in because the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, again, made sure that every other potential contender was banned from running. This is how it works in Iran. And so this opens up now sort of the possibility for the supreme leader to manipulate the new elections now that will be scheduled by July, to manipulate those to maneuver someone of his choice once again into the presidency. So there's that. The other thing that the loss of Raisi does is removes a potential rival for successor to the supreme leader himself. Now, Raisi was considered a possible candidate to succeed the now 85-year-old supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. But the supreme leader, even though he himself made sure that Raisi got the presidency back in 2021, did not see Raisi as his successor. Instead, the supreme leader has a son. His name is Mojtabi, and he's a 50-something-year-old whom it is thought the supreme leader potentially would like to maneuver into a position to succeed him when he leaves that office of supreme leader in one way or another. Now, ordinarily, the job of selecting the successor to a supreme leader, and that's only happened once before. That would be after the death of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. I'm sorry, the death of the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini back in 1989, and that is when Khamenei, the current supreme leader, was selected by the Assembly of Experts. The Assembly of Experts is the body, the official body of Iran, charged with selecting the successor to a supreme leader, either who, by reason of illness or otherwise, is no longer able to hold the office. So it is at least thought that potentially the loss of Raisi opens up the possibility that Khamenei's own son, Mojtabi, could be somehow maneuvered into selection by the Assembly of Experts to succeed his father when that time comes.
Who's the other world leader that there was an assassination attempt on? I completely forgot that just the other day.
Oh, the Slovakian
Yeah.
president.
What was that about?
Not even quite sure myself at this point. It was a 71-year-old poet um, who apparently allegedly shot the Slovakian prime minister. I'm sorry, president, at I guess it was a campaign event outdoors, and this individual walked up, got in way too close proximity, and unloaded 5 shots um, into the Slovakian president, who was rushed to a hospital. And apparently, although he was grievously injured, as we might expect, um, he has survived. And at the point, at this moment, so far, it seems that that he is making a recovery. It's kind of amazing that he was able to survive that. But the actions of the assailant, the accused assailant, um, not sure what that was about, or who or why exactly. I was just looking up his name again, Robert Fico or Fico. I'm not sure which way it's pronounced, Fico or Fico, Fico. Robert Fico. Let's say it's Fico. Um, in any case, remains in serious condition, but apparently out of immediate danger, and probably will need quite a while to recover. But as for the assailant, just kind of mysterious at the moment. You know, a 71-year-old poet, no real, understanding of why he would try to assassinate the president.
Mm. Yeah, it just I guess everything. Russia and Ukraine, Hamas, Israel, China, Taiwan, Iranian president, it just all and I've said it, I mean, I think I've probably said it to you a million times. It all just has the eerie feeling of like, are we going to be looking at this in some history book in 100 years? It's like, oh yeah, this is all the kindling leading up to the fire, the bonfire of all out escalate. It doesn't, it certainly doesn't like allay any anxieties.
No, you might be familiar with the I think pretty well known poem of William Butler Yeats. It's called what, The Second Coming, I think, and it begins something like things fall apart, the center cannot hold, the blood dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. Remember that? Things fall apart.
No, but yeah, that's kind of how it feels.
Yeah, doesn't it?
It's not a good. So back to the home front then. How is this gonna? In what ways and what paths are we? I mean, you and I both are very open about liking Donald Trump, but just to be objective, in what paths are we coming up? What fork in the road are we coming up to? Not just as the United States, but as the world in November. I mean, is there the a strong force kind of puts everything in order, or are we gonna the continuing unraveling that happens in the nature abhors a vacuum, power abhors a vacuum. Are we at a splitting point that there even can be a positive outcome, whereas at this point is it just hold on to your hats?
The November 5th elections here in the United States are enormously important, obviously. Um, I think the last few years of this current Biden administration, if anything, these years show us how important American leadership in the world really is. And that when American power and influence is lacking, is withdrawn, is no longer present in key areas like the Middle East, vis-a-vis, globalist, hegemonic, would-be conquerors like Russia and China. When that's absent, things do fall apart. And we can contrast these last 4 years, almost 4 years, with the previous four, the administration of Donald Trump that preceded this one, and see what a difference it made. There was peace in the world, not because all the bad guys just decided to give up and go home. No, because they were kept in check, because they were held back by the strength of leadership in the United States, the president, Donald Trump, yes, but his whole team, um, and also because the rogues of the world, if you will, the Xi Jinping's, the Vladimir Putin's, the Ayatollah Khamenei's, they were a little bit uncertain about what this president of ours, Donald Trump, might do. And cultivating a little bit of that uncertainty is not a bad thing. Well, remember back, well, I don't know if you will, but those of us who are a little bit older might remember back how they used to call President Ronald Reagan a cowboy.
Hmm.
And, what's he going to do? He's going to set the world on fire. But that uncertainty really can serve a national security policy well.
Hmm.
When it puts adversaries and enemies who would run amok and instigate chaos like we see now, when it puts them on their back foot a little bit of uncertainty is not a bad thing. Yes, you do want firm red lines. You do this and we'll do that. That has its place. But a little bit of uncertainty about, well, maybe I better not because he's in the White House. That's not a bad thing. So yeah, the election coming up, um, and again, but in front of the American voting electorate, uh, are the examples of two former presidents. Well, one former and one hopefully former. Um, and their terms in office can be compared and contrasted in a way that we've not had. I can't even think of when that might have ever happened before. Maybe never.
Yeah.
But when two former presidents and their records are on display, for all the American people, all the American voting electorate, citizens, hopefully, not all the illegals, um, that provides a very clear choice, for the voters. And these things we're talking about, I think, will be very much, in the fore for the next, what is it, six, 6 or something months.
Yeah. That is a good point. Yeah, I don't think this has ever happened before, right?
I
Where
can't think of it ever.
where you
No.
have them, yeah, like Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and then they're both
Yeah.
on the ballot. That is kind of madness. Then realistically, I mean, where do you think this goes, right? Because then we have the entire fraud issue where it's like, does it even matter?
Well, it does matter.
Well, certainly, yeah, but
And I've heard this said more than once that by different people. I think Newt Gingrich was one former Speaker of the House, of course, speaking on one of the shows day or two ago or so, and he made the point that the outcome, the vote, must be so overwhelming in rejection of current President Joe Biden that any attempted fraud, and of course there'll be attempted fraud, but that it would be overwhelmed. It has to be such a landslide. It has to be such an overwhelming. In particular, I mean, popular vote, yes, that certainly does matter, but in the Electoral College, and that's why you see so much emphasis these days on the matchup in surveys and polling and all of that in these battleground states, as they call them, like a Michigan and a Wisconsin and a Pennsylvania and a Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, and a couple more.
Hmm. Did you see, and again, I don't know how accurate this is, did you see that, I think, like, Russian warships off the coast of California? Did you see any of that?
No.
Let me look at, because I'm pretty sure I saw it, and it was, I mean, the first thing I
Now
thought of
they
was
have, I mean, the Russians have um, done overflights very close to U.S. airspace up north around Alaska, the Bering Strait, the Aleutian Islands, that area. But warship off of, what did you say, California?
Russia has announced it will be conducting missile launch training for the next 10 days. It looks more like Baja California.
Off of Mexico, in other words, in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Uh, I would check that source.
I
I've
will.
not seen that.
Russian non-military. So now they're saying it's Russian rocket booster, not military. Um, the first thing I thought, I didn't really think too much of it. I just thought of Skunk Works by Ben Rich about the Lockheed Martin, division he would talk about back in the 80s. He was like, there was always Russian warships way off the coast. He was like, they knew our schedules better than our wives, because it was just kind of a tit for tat surveillance thing. So I didn't really think anything of it when I saw it. But yeah, maybe
No, I've not seen that. And I mean, we've certainly seen aggression by Chinese PLA, People's Liberation Army, naval units in the areas of the South China Sea, certainly the Taiwan Straits, Sea of Japan, and areas out there in what we would call the Western Pacific. But Russian warships off of Baja California, no, I'd not seen that.
maybe I might be the idiot taking the bait. Per what I guess we were going to talk about before, the Iranian president went down, the three main aid sectors going to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Could you maybe elaborate on any developments in Taiwan? Because I feel like I've heard the other two. I've already heard those points a trillion times. I'm more interested in China, South China Sea.
Yeah, well, I mean, the purpose of providing Taiwan with defensive weapons that it needs ahead of time is to beef up that deterrent factor that we did not do with Ukraine and should have, and rue the day we did not. Well, some of us rue the day that we did not. But doing it in advance, of an actual assault invasion by China of Taiwan. The whole point of that is deterrence, and giving them the kind of defensive air defense and other things that they need, um, to make the island, to make Taiwan look too much like a porcupine. I've heard it referred to that way before.
Mm,
Too unpleasant to even attempt swallowing, put it that
mm.
way.
What does that then? What does that then look like? Excuse me, I can't talk. Because I mean, I would imagine the aid going to Ukraine is far different from the aid going to Taiwan. I mean, island nation versus what seems to
Yeah,
be
it's
like a.
different weaponry. Yeah, yeah.
What all would that look like
Well,
specifically?
I would say that air defense is probably common to both. That's incredibly necessary. And other kinds of defensive missile batteries, that sort of thing, common to both. But again, in Ukraine, there are other needs that are attendant to a mostly land-based war. Although the area of the Kerch Strait, the Sea of Azov, Black Sea, in and around Crimea, has been very important as well. And the Ukrainians amazingly have really with their ability to target Russian naval assets in the Black Sea in particular, in and around Crimea, Sevastopol, their naval base there, to target them and sink them. Not only has chased a lot of the Russian Navy out of the Black Sea, back through the Kerch Strait, into the Sea of Azov, closer to mainland Russia, but also had the benefit of opening up Ukraine's export ports, for getting out its incredibly important harvest of grains, wheat and barley and seed oils and things like that are so critical for many places in the world, in particular Africa, particularly North Africa. So those kinds of shortest ship batteries, that was really important in Ukraine, and would be for Taiwan as well. So there's similarities, and there are things that are different. But again, providing that deterrent factor ahead of an outright, all-out assault invasion is what's going on with Taiwan right now, and so very important as well. Maybe I should say not just the armaments, not just the weaponry in that, but the gathering together, the unifying of allies, in the region. So we're talking, of course, about the Quad, India, Japan, Australia, United States, AUKUS, as they call it, Australia, UK, and the US, another alliance, three there, but also other regional allies that include the Philippines, of course, South Korea, Indonesia, and others in the area. That also is important, to show the unity of all of these allies of both the United States and of Taiwan. And also, one last note, we should be watching how Japan's own national defense policy is gearing up, and how Japan is arming itself in a defensive way, that is, a difference, a move away from, different from, the immediate post-World War II policies of Japan, naturally speaking. So now, though, this many years later, 80 or so almost years, right? Japan is arming up once again its natural defensive capabilities. So all of those things together, it's not just weaponry to Taiwan, ammunition even, or even, the training that our people, our military providing them. It's all of these things together, and it's meant as deterrence, to forestall, anything. And that's, I think, so important. And the example of Ukraine, I guess, shows that to us.
And then lastly, because it's a shorter episode, spoiler alert, everyone, I'm dying falling. Is there any way? I mean, are we already past, I guess, the point of no return in general building up? Like at this point, is the fork in the road World War III or Cold War II? Is there any is there any going back to how things were 5 years ago, or is that
Oh,
kind of out the
sure. Of
window?
course there, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are still the United States of America. We have enormous capabilities. Some of them, like our energy production, have been, stifled for the last 3+ years. That can be turned around very quickly. And that, just take that one thing for an example. Opening up our energy production once again under a new administration, meaning coal, oil, natural gas, and nuclear energy, all of the above, will serve the purpose not only of making us, America, energy independent and eventually dominant. We have more of those resources than any other country in the world. including Russia and including Saudi Arabia. But so it'll not only, serve our own consumer needs, without a need to import from such as Venezuela or the Middle East, Iran, or someplace. But it would also serve to dampen down prices of energy, oil and natural gas in particular, in the world. And what would that do? That would put a crimp in Russia's economy and its ability to continue waging aggressive, invasive warfare. So there's that. Now the industrial base that's been allowed to deteriorate so badly, that's going to take a longer time to build back up again. But I think that can also happen. But even just having different leadership in the White House, in the State Department, at the National Security Council, in the Department of Defense, new leadership in all of those places would send a message to the world. Again, we were talking about this right at the beginning, right? Put these rogue, nations, regimes like Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, put them on notice that, yeah, the cowboy, at least the Wall Street cowboy, is back in the White House and not going to put up with your nonsense. So even that shift in perception about American leadership would have an effect, even before, the actions that we expect, the new policies or return to the old policies, begins to take place.
Mm. Yeah, there is. It was one of the late night hosts. I forget who it was. It was one of these kind of traditionally orange man bad guys. I forget who it was. But it was like right when the Biden administration started, and some country did something. He was like, you know who wouldn't this wouldn't happen under. He was like Donald Trump. He's like with Donald Trump, you never knew if you were going to get a congratulatory phone call or if there was going to be an like an ICBM warning inbound to your palace. He was like that was chaotic and it worked to his favor, and I think that is true. He was absolutely insane, like in a good way. It was like you really didn't know. Was it going to be a mean tweet or was he going to send 10 aircraft carriers over there? And
Yeah,
there is some
that
logic to that.
uncertainty,
Yeah.
putting a little bit of uncertainty, into the calculations of the rogues, has its place. Now, again, as I said, it is also important to lay down red lines and then keep them. That helps too.
Mm,
Um, on major issues. But interjecting that little bit of uncertainty, not insanity, not
sure.
crazy, not, but for example, how in January of 2020, um, President Trump took down Qasem Soleimani,
Yeah.
the commander of the Iranian Quds Force, part of the IRGC. That was totally unexpected. And it really set Iran back on its heels
Mm,
for quite a while because they were afraid of what that cowboy in the White House might do. That sort of thing.
mm,
Not starting World War III or
sure.
anything like that, but just specific, targeted actions, that leave the rogues not quite as, confident of their invulnerability.
Mm, well said. Um, but for now, Ms. Lopez, we got to wrap this one up. Thank you
Okay,
so much for your patience in doing this with me. Um,
sure.
and yeah, guys, please go in the description. Please go follow Claire on Twitter. Please go find the links to all the different things, all the different websites you write on. And Claire, closing thoughts on anything I didn't touch on?
I think we covered quite a bit. This is an important period of time to be watching and engaged in international events as they move forward. But as always, I know you'll be keeping an eye on all of it. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and yeah, taking years off my life. I swear. Sometimes doing these episodes, I'm like, I don't want to talk about this, but yeah, no, it is interesting. But Claire, I will send you this episode, and we'll schedule the next one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize again. I haven't been as animated as normal. I've never had my butt kicked by pollen like this, but Claire, thank you
Mhm.
so much.
Sure.
Guys, thank
Thank
you
you
for
next
watching.
time.
Yes, ma'am. Please go to the description. Please go follow Claire on Twitter. Till next time,
Recording
thank you,
stopped.
everybody. God bless. Much love. Peace.